Good morning, Facebook family. It's Friday, August 8th. So, I wanted to let y'all know, you probably saw the flyers, that this Sunday is my and my nonprofit's Rock Against Racism show. And I'm really looking forward to it. We have a great lineup of amazing bands of all different genres, but as it was last year, the primary genre is ska and reggae. We do have a couple of hardcore kind of punk bands and a little metal. We have a little bit of hip hop going on, a lot of different things. All different people of all different backgrounds on stage, as it should be. We're opening it up with a blessing from our Native American brothers, which we're very happy about. And we have a speaker coming that we're also happy about, who was also around last year. So we're happy to have them. There are no other speakers. Other than the Native American speaker and the activist speaker, there are no other speakers. There is no room for any other speakers. Do not come to my event asking to speak. We have very limited time. We are on a permit and we are on borrowed time with Department of Parks, and adding a whole bunch of speakers who roll up at the last minute is going to cause our show to go over, and it's going to mess up Skidanks, who is the headliner in the final act in the show. Don't do it. If you are interested in speaking, the time to let me know was a couple weeks before the show, not after the event schedule is formalized. I will tell you no, and I will tell people you can't come on stage. I don't like to be that a nasty person, but that's what I'm going to have to do because it impacts other people's time and money. All right. So please have that courtesy. If you're interested in being a speaker, at the next one I do, we'll be glad to have you. And I just wanted to clarify stuff. And I think it's ridiculous that I have to keep doing this, but I guess this is how it's going to be, is I'm going to have to show my face and put out video statements so that people are clear. Whether you listen to them or believe them or not in my control, but it needs to be put out there publicly. So here's the deal. Okay. Rock Against Racism is not owned by any particular production company. Rock Against Racism began in the 70s, mid to late 70s, because there were statements made publicly on national television by David Bowie and by, of all people, Eric Clapton, okay, that were considered racist towards African American people, and in particular, African American artists. And people were very upset by those statements, okay, because they seem to be supporting genocide. And also, in the case of Eric Clapton, he made his living covering and learning from Black blues and reggae artists. One of his most popular songs was his cover of Bob Marley's I Shot the Sheriff. I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot the deputy. That was Bob Marley's song. Okay. Reggae music is religious music. It is the religious music of the Rastafarian religion. Okay. And it was very insulting and hurtful, some of what Eric Clapton said. In response to that, a concert series was started called The Rock Against Racism in the UK, in England, to address racism in the arts, but racism and racial prejudice in general. Okay? It was very successful, and a lot of the messaging was amazing. There was a group of people who got together with the people from England, and they brought the Rock Against Racism concerts series here to the United States, I believe in 1978, with The Clash and other artists. The Clash being the punk rockers who stood in solidarity with the reggae people, and a lot of other people on the issue of anti-racism. Okay? That concert series was brought here by a lot of people, not only one crew of people. Okay? Apparently there was some kind of schism or whatever. I don't really know the story. I don't really care. But one of the people who was very, very, very active in organizing those shows and bringing the Rock Against Racism here, okay, to New York, to the United States, was the head of the Youth International Party, the Yippies. Who were the Yippies? A lot of our young people don't know, so I'm going to tell you. We had a hippie movement that stood for a lot of stuff. Anti-racism was one of the things that the hippies believed in. Natural medicinal remedies is something else they believe in, because they were very heavily influenced by Native American culture and Native American medicines. Okay, so they believed that weed and psychotropics and other stuff that were natural on the earth, that the native people used as medicinal remedies, should continue to be available to the people without any restriction. All right, because there were not restrictions on that in the past, and they were used for centuries by shamans who understood the earth and understood how to use that to heal people. That was their belief. They got a lot of that from Native American spirituality. All right. They generally were not political. They were apolitical. They didn't want to get involved in any kind of government or anything. All right. But later, like in the 60s or whatever, 70s, they did begin to get political when it had to do with environmental issues, anti-war, I'm going to stress anti-war issues, and anti-racism. And Dana Beal was part of that. One of the first actions he ever took as an activist was to call out racially motivated violence. Okay, after a bunch of white supremacists bombed a church full of little black girls down in Alabama because they didn't agree with the civil rights movement that Dr. King was spearheading. He stood with Dr. King. Okay, peace, nonviolence. Okay. So basically, he began to organize the youth and cause some of the hippies, not all of them, some of them, to become politically active and involved. And those were the Yippies, and they called themselves the Youth International Party. Yippies. Okay. A lot of the things that they did, history has absolved them. Okay, they were proven right. And a lot of good things that we enjoy and that we take for granted came out of that movement. And at first, a lot of the things they were proposing seemed really crazy and radical and unholy, and now they're perfectly normal to us after a while. And we see how they have benefited many, many people, not just here in New York and in the United States, but all over the world. And I could go on forever just telling you about that. But instead, I formed a nonprofit called the American Archives of Counterculture. That meant and does educate people on the so-called counterculture, the largest known counterculture being the hippie and the yippie movement, but there were other countercultures in the United States, and how their dissent and their questioning the status quo led us to have a lot of the things we have that we enjoy, that we're happy and proud about now, that are an integral part of being an American, of being someone from the United States, and that are positive. Okay. Most of the time, the shows that I do, they are to educate people on something having to do with that counterculture, definitely. But they are also to give back to the community by coming up with funds to give to organizations that are either going to become defunct and need to remain here to keep that positive stuff happening in the community that stem from the counterculture, or to just help people in the community in need. All right. So, we don't run a museum. We had a museum as on the list of things that we might want to do. And that did not happen because the person who was supposed to do the work for that didn't do his job. And instead started working on something else that was a conflict of interest. All right? And they were asked to either stop doing it or resign. And they pulled out of it. We did not kick the person out, nor did we steal any ideas from anyone. I can't stress that enough. That is the truth. People are going to believe or not believe me. But, I can tell someone that, 2 + 2 = 4. And that could be the total truth, and they could decide not to believe it. And there's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is speak the truth. I can't do anything else. All right? So anyway, the Rock Against Racism, one of the main organizers of those first shows that came here to the United States from Britain, Dana Beal was one of the main organizers. And so were some of the Yippies. Alan Thompson, who was affiliated with the Yippies at that time, was the sound man. You can look this history up. It is documented history. It is not a secret. It is not a story that Diane is making up. All right? Even though they brought that series here, they don't own it. The way that it was set up is that anyone can have a show that rocks against racism. If a bunch of students have, God forbid, a horrible racial incident on campus and they want to throw a show, right, to speak out against that through music and the art, they can call that a rock against racism. They don't need to write to Dana Beal or call Dana Beal. They don't need to call the Yippies. They don't need to call the Shadow Presents. I'm going to say it. No one needs to call the Shadow Presents and ask for permission to do a Rock Against Racism. There are Rock Against Racism shows all over the United States and all over the world. The logo is allowed to be used. However, what happened was there was a big lawsuit. People didn't like the messaging. It was starting to get a little scary for certain people. Some of the messaging was a little angry, especially coming from our hip hop children. Okay. And people didn't like the decibels of sound. They were getting annoyed. A lot of the shows were being done in Central Park, and they were very noisy and very crowded, and people started to complain. They didn't like the messaging. They were a little scared, whatever it is. And there ended up being a lawsuit to try to bar the shows from continuing. And the Yippies and other people who were involved argued the First Amendment. Okay. They won. But then the other side appealed. And there was some kind of a loophole. There was some kind of politics going on at the time, where people were very afraid of the very revolutionary and angry messaging coming out in the 90s in our hip hop. They were trying to censor hip hop. Dolores Tucker and Tipper Gore were trying to censor hip hop. People were actually being arrested in Florida and other places for buying and selling hip hop records. Okay, it was a whole thing. It was a whole giant thing. One of my professors at Columbia submitted an amicus brief about it. It was a big thing. So there was a lot of political backlash, especially against hip hop, and punk, which were very prominent in the Rock Against Racism. Okay. They lost on their appeal. And when they lost on their appeal, many years went by where no one did any Rock Against Racism shows. And prior to Rock Against Racism, it was the Rock Against Reagan. It was still RAR. But in any case, they stopped doing shows. They stopped using the logo here in the United States. And what happens is, when you do not use your logo and your name in business or in trade for a consecutive 5 years, right? Someone else can come and put the trademark in for it. and you don't really have a leg to stand on because you abandoned it. So people's avoidance issues cause them to lose the ability to copyright it. And a lot of the people who were involved in the original Rock Against Racism were anarchists. They don't believe in government being involved in anything, and they didn't want to copyright it because they didn't ever want to have a situation where a group of young people wanted to do a Rock Against Racism to talk about some of the issues in their community, right? And then someone turned around and said, I'm suing you because you're using the Rock Against Racism and that's my trademark. They wanted it to be open so that people could continue to do it without having to worry about being sued or having to pay money for it. Okay? So because their philosophy didn't match what we are used to, where we go and get something patented and trademarked by the government and someone owns it. They wanted it to belong to everybody, be open to everybody. So they were not able to challenge when someone came along 3 to 5 years later and put in for the copyrights. Now, the copyrights are owned by another group of people. They are not owned by The Shadow or Chris Flash, and they are not owned by me. They are also not owned by the Yippies. Okay. What they own is actually merch. Somebody in California got the rights to it. They're running shows under rockagainstracism.com, and they have the rights to the merchandising. So if you go to use the logo, you have to have it 20% different. Otherwise, they can come after you. Okay? All right. But they still kept it open where you can go on the website and you can put in, I'd like to do a Rock Against Racism show, and you can put your information and they know about it, which is what I did last year and what I'm doing again this year. And I'd be happy to post that information up for people to see it, since we like to talk so much shit about a woman who is reaching into her pocket, into her social security money, to simply do kindnesses for people because she likes to be kind to people in need. And people just they're so used to people being charlatans that they want to smear her name. Oh, there's got to be a catch. No, there's not a catch. There are actually people who are altruists on the planet. Yes, I know that's hard for you to believe. Your life has been so fucking miserable that you've never seen an actual altruist in your life. So you can't freaking possibly wrap your head around the idea that I'm not scamming anybody. But I'm going to lay out the history of it, and everyone is welcome to go on Google and do their own research. All right? But they did leave it open so people can still do RAR shows. The only time it may become an issue is with the merchandising. All right? No one has to call for permission. All right? And the people who brought me in and the people who will be speaking at and supporting my show are the same Yippies who brought it here. They also supported the other shows. It is a good thing to speak out against racism. And they have supported the shows from both crews. Okay? But just because a show says Rock Against Racism does not mean that that show belongs to or is affiliated with The Shadow, with Chris Flash, with Shows Tompkins. It doesn't have to be. And if someone has the permits, paid for all the production costs, paid all the bands, and did all the work, it is simply their show. When the people at Tompkins get up and build a stage, pay for their permits, get their legal team, make the flyer, book the bands, and do all the work, that is their show. And when I do it, it's my show. And I don't need permission from anybody. Okay? So the Rock Against Racism show that happens every August in Washington Square, usually around the 10th of the month, is my show. It is the only RAR show that I do. I do not do any other show. And the purpose, A, is to speak out against racism, like any Rock Against Racism show, and to teach people this history. And that's it. It's free. There's no gimmick. Okay? We do have all our permits in order. My nonprofit is legally formed with the help of a lawyer. We are registered with the Charities Bureau. We have to register every 6 months. Okay? We are registered with the IRS. All of our paperwork is in order. If it was not in order, the Department of Parks would not give us the permit. We have to show that. Okay? If anyone wants to see it, I don't care because it's public information anyway. I am glad to post it. You can look it up online even. All right? So anyone, oh, she's running a scam. No, I am not. You're talking a lot of crap that you're getting from people who don't know how the law works or how running shows works and who want to see me not do shows because of their personal ego problems and not because I don't roll legit. I roll 100% legit. I'm tired of defending myself. I'm going to stop doing it. But I will do it when innocent people may be harmed, which is the reason I'm putting this up. Okay, so I've just explained to you that anyone can do a Rock Against Racism show. Most people are used to seeing that show in recent decades done at Tompkins with a certain production crew. They're used to that. That's okay. We hope they keep doing it. I don't really give a crap. They can do one every day of the week. By all means, call out racism 365 days a year. Call them out at the same time that I'm doing it. I don't care. Okay? But because people are used to seeing that crew do it and they don't know the history and they don't know the legalities involved, they assume when they see Rock Against Racism that it is a show put on by that production team, and it isn't. Okay? This is problematic. Here's why it's problematic. Everyone has a different way of running their show. And everyone has a different philosophy, and that is 100% okay. But let's say I have a show and a riot breaks out. And then someone the following week has a show also called Rock Against Racism. The community does not know this history. They assume that the person throwing this Rock Against Racism show is somehow connected to or affiliated with the crew that just had a riot. And now they're scared. Right? Okay. That's what's going on right now. And I'm going to explain. On August 3rd, the people at Tompkins combined the Tompkins Memorial Show about the police riot. I'm going to repeat that. They did a memorial about the police riot, okay, against the homeless that occurred in Tompkins Square Park in the 80s. All right? They have that every year to commemorate what occurred there. Okay? They decided to also make that show a Rock Against Racism show. Not a problem. Like I said, call out racism every day. Call it out several times a day. All right? They were very clear on their flyers brought to you by the shows at Tompkins, The Shadow, and those crazy anarchists, which they put on their flyers every year. They made it very clear whose show it was. All right? Nowhere on that flyer is there a peace sign logo. Nowhere on that flyer does it say American Archives of Counterculture. Nowhere on that flyer does it say hosted by Diane. They were very, very clear, abundantly clear about whose show it is. All right? And I am abundantly clear about whose show Sunday's show is, which is what you should do. That's being a professional. right? So what people in the community who are scared need to do is they need to read, because it's very, very clearly put on the poster. Read what it says. This Rock Against Racism show is brought to you by the shows at Tompkins, and those crazy anarchists. My flyer says that this Rock Against Racism show is brought to you by the lead singer of the New York Rats, that would be me, and the American Archives of Counterculture. It looks to me like those are two different groups. Okay? So what goes on in someone else's production, I have zero control over or say over. However they want to run their shows is their business. Okay? Whoever they feel comfortable having a table or flyers or whatever is their business. I have nothing to do with it. And how I run mine is my business, and they have nothing to do with it. So if I want my show to be mostly reggae and ska, and they want their show to be mostly punk and hard, that's fine. No one cares. We all agree that racism sucks and that we should use whatever talent or whatever resources we have to call it out and say that it's wrong. We're all on the same page with that. All right? So, apparently, I do not know, because I was not at the show. I was not at Tompkins on August 3rd, 2025. I was not there. My team was not there. We were not involved in the organizing. We were not involved in who was at the park, who was performing, what tables were out, what people were doing. We were not involved. It is not our show. It is not our business. And I was in my home on Long Island, not even in New York City, helping to make a flyer for my event, which was the following week, and handling my business, handling my family. So I don't know what happened at the show. Okay? Hearsay is, I'm going to repeat, hearsay is that there were some people at the show who opens up a Hamas flag and was passing out literature straight up promoting Hamas. Now, there are some people who are very, very patriotic and religious when it comes to Israel. Okay? And if you criticize any policy that Israel has, all of a sudden you're an anti-Semite, and all of a sudden you're a hater, and all of a sudden you hate the Jews, and all of a sudden you're a threat, and all of a sudden you're Nazi and you want to kill them all. Okay? The people who are complaining about this alleged, and I'm saying alleged because I was not there. I cannot speak for what happened at someone else's show. But allegedly, okay, this happened. And the people who are saying that it happened are people who are known in the community, lived in the community, part of the scene in the community, respected people who are not crazy, who don't go around foaming at the mouth, okay, and who actually are leftists that are pro-humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians. So it's not coming from people who are like, the second you criticize Israel, accusing you of something. This is coming from people who generally support treating Palestinians as human beings, but do not support terrorism. Okay? They are the ones saying that this was happening and that they were very disappointed. Okay? I do not know because I was not there. There are other people coming to me saying that it was 3 kids who came to the show, who were not affiliated with the show, who were not affiliated with the bands, who simply came to the Rock Against Racism show and decided to wave that flag and hand out that stuff, and that because it is a public park, the producers, the people in the show, do not have the ability to tell people who can be in a public park passing out flyers, but it didn't have anything to do necessarily with them. That is the story. And they're like, oh, it was only 3 people. Well, here's what I'm going to say. Only 3 Klansmen showing up at my show is a problem. Okay, now I'm not going to compare them to Klansmen, but I'm saying to people who might be Israeli, you saying it was only 3 people is not going to matter. All right? To the NYPD, that's not going to matter. Because as soon as you look like you are openly promoting a group that is actually considered a terrorist group, now they have to investigate where your money comes from and who you're rolling with. Because under the United States, the USA Patriot Act, okay, they have to look into that. And if they think that you are financing a known terrorist group, the way that they handle you is very, very different from the way that they handle other people. And they are using the argument that people are suspected of being aligned with certain terrorist groups to deport them and send them to El Salvador and other black sites. For example, the gang that they're trying to say certain American citizens were a member of, okay, syndicated gangs, nationally syndicated gangs that engage in certain types of violence are considered terrorist groups. So as soon as they decide that you're a member of this terrorist group, they can strip you of your citizenship. They can do that under the USA Patriot Act, which was put in place long before Donald Trump. They can strip you of your citizenship and they can ship you out to a CIA black site where you can be waterboarded for the rest of your life. They can. They did it to the Muslims after 9/11. They've done it to many people. And the rules on due process are not the same. They aren't under those laws. You can look it up yourself. Go and Google it. Do your due diligence. I haven't said anything that isn't true. So it is a very serious thing when we start to say that a producer, that the musicians on stage, that all the other people, hundreds of people in the park, are somehow affiliated with Hamas because 3 people, only 3, or whoever they are, were making statements. That is a very nasty thing to do to people. Okay? But if you're going to do that, please do that to the people at Tompkins, because I am not affiliated with that group. And just because we both have Rock Against Racism on the flyer does not mean it's the same production crew. We have made it clear that we are a different production team. And we do our show once a year in August. We don't do it any other time. All right? No one affiliated with the American Archives of Counterculture supports or endorses any form of terrorism or terrorist activity of any kind from any group, domestic or foreign. Our money comes from legitimate sources that are traceable. We do not put any flag on our stage. We do not put the American flag. We do not put any kind of flag on our stage. We didn't last year, which was our first time. We will not be doing it this year. We do not put signs having to do with Gaza. We are up there playing a show, making our statements through our lyrics and our music, most of which is reggae music, having a good time, feeling irie, mellowing out, and going home. All right? That's what we're doing. What other people do, we are not responsible for those other people, nor will we answer for them. I cannot answer for what somebody else allows at their show. And I don't have control over what they do at the show. And it is not okay for people to interrogate or persecute me for what somebody else had going on at their show. Assuming that they did, because again, I was not there. And we cannot control who comes into a public park. We have the permit for the stage and for the event, but we do not have the authority to stand out there with a group of people and say, this group can come into the park and that group cannot. That is the job of the damn NYPD. We cannot tell people that they cannot be in a public park. We cannot tell people that they can't fly their flag. Just because they're doing that does not mean they are part of what we are doing. I want to make that abundantly clear. We don't have the authority to kick someone out of the park. That is not our job. We are not law enforcement officers. All right? So here's what I'm going to say. Since it is important for me, because there were a lot of people who are of Jewish descent who were very disappointed and hurt by what happened or by what they saw or say they saw. And they have been making complaints because now they assume that anything that says Rock Against Racism in it is somehow affiliated with what happened on Sunday. And that is not true. That's like saying every Target store is exactly like the Target where some bigots showed up and set something on fire. No, that is ridiculous. Get a grip. Use the brains that the Lord gave you and read the flyer, because we are all being very clear about whose show is whose and who is performing and what the vibe is. We are very, very clear on that. Okay? So here's the thing. Since you want to know my political stance, and that is so damn important to all of you, okay? I'm going to show you the logo. So when we first started our nonprofit, okay, someone coined the phrase for it, and they later said that they wanted to do their own thing and that that title was theirs and that the logo they made for it was theirs. We respected that. We changed the name of our group so that we were not using their name, and we used a different logo so that they could keep their logo. All right? We didn't use their stuff. It is very abundantly clear. I have pictures of the logo, which is a black and white logo of someone making the peace sign, and we have the name. I have pictures of it. They are very clearly different from our name, American Archives of the Counterculture, and it's very clearly different logo. And I'm going to show you the origins of the logo. You see this? This is my front room of my home, where my children do artwork. Okay? This is where my children sit and do artwork and school projects, where they play. Here's the easel. Here's the library book. Here's the books. Here's the board games. Okay? Here's educational books. We have musical instruments here right now that I had to move. Okay? This is my house. When you walk into my house, this is the first room you walk into. We have our little hippie van. We have a little shine on pillow. We have it decorated, okay, as a little tribute to the hippie culture. And it's a place where our kids like to sit. There's plenty of sunshine. Like to sit here and draw and color and do puzzles and have some quiet time and quietly read a book. And there is our symbol. You see this? It is on the wall of my actual house. And this was painted by hand by my disabled son, Donovan Patrick McDonough, with his own little hands. This is our symbol. I'm going to show you the other side of it, which we decided not to use. You see how it says 1969? Actually, the Summer of Love was 68. But he heard me talk a lot about Spirit of 69 skins, and that's what he put. A little child who came out of my womb painted this symbol, okay? It is not the symbol that other people proposed, so we are not taking anyone's artwork. This is my son's artwork. It is his. The peace sign is public domain. This is his art. This is his. It's hanging right here. If you go on our website, if you go on our Facebook page, if you go on the actual flyer, you're going to see this. There you go. That is our symbol. We stole it from no one. It belongs to the little boy who painted it, because he understands, as small as he is, he understands the importance of that. This is the peace sign. Go look up what that means. We do not support war. We do not support either side of a war. We do not support Israel bombing anybody. We don't care what your arguments for that are. We do not support war. We are anti-war. We do not support Israel bombing people, Iran bombing people, the United States bombing people. We do not support war. We are anti-war. The hippies are very well known for their anti-war stance. We do not support war. Period. Now, I had an event for veterans because if you're going to send someone to fight a war and they become disabled, you should take care of them. However, we do not support or endorse war. We do not believe people should finance any war. We do not believe that Israel should be bombing anybody, and we don't believe anyone should be bombing Israel. Okay? We do not believe that it is okay to starve Palestinian children or Irish children or Native American children when you took away the buffalo. We do not support genocide of any kind. We also do not support genocide against Jews. We do not support snatching up women and children from Jewish families and holding them hostage. We do not support your fucking wars, any of them. We do not have a side. We are not going to say that Israel is right, and we are not going to say that Palestine is right. We are against your war. We are against war. Again, against war, anti-war. We are against war. So we do not support Hamas. We do not support the IDF. We do not support Iran. We do not support anyone who is engaging in a war because we are anti-war. We are peace. We believe that peace is possible when the people decide that they want it bad enough. Period. Okay? That's the situation. That is what we stand for. So if there is someone who is coming to a show with a flag who is supporting violent strategies where they want to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth, we do not support you. And if there is someone coming to our show who is supporting violent strategies, who has a flag with a star on it, who's saying that it is okay to starve children because they may grow up to become Hamas members, or whatever your deal is, we don't support you either. We support neither of you. We do not support war. We do not support Russia, and we do not support Ukraine warring with each other. We do not support war. We are anti-war. Get that clear. Anti-war. Now, there are a lot of people who will be angry because they feel that we should pick a side in their war. We will not pick a side in their war. We are against war. As the hippies were in the 60s, we are anti-war. Period. Now, if you, I am pro self-defense. If you're standing there and somebody rolls up and punches you and you need to defend your life on the spot, that's one thing. But wars where we send groups of people over to another country to kill total strangers, no, we do not support wars. And what we do is when there is war, we step in to heal the trauma and the damage to the earth, the trauma and the damage to people that war mongering causes. We do not support any war, either side. We don't care what your argument is about why being on your side is the right side. We do not support your war. Fuck your war. We do not support any war. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care that God told you to fight. We don't care that Satan told you to fight. We don't care that Joan of Arc told you to fight. We don't care. We don't support your war. And what our show is about is calling out racism, calling out racial prejudice, calling out policies that are racially profiling people, calling out any kind of racism, racial discrimination, unfair racial stereotypes, violence between one another on the basis of something as stupid as melanin count. Yes, that is what we are calling out. And we are calling it out against anybody. So if you are white and someone is coming at you because you're white, we stand with you. That is not okay. And if you're black and someone's coming after you because you have more melanin, we stand with you. If you're being denied access to a job, if you're being rolled up on the street for walking while black or walking while Hispanic, we stand with you. The show is about anti-racism. Our sponsor is Legalized New York City, which also is not a terrorist group. It is a perfectly legal group. And they are for the decriminalization and legalization of marijuana. Why? Because like the hippies in the past, they believe that that is a natural herb that heals people. And clinical studies have proven that. And so they want to make it so that people who need to smoke or use, right, for whatever condition they have, do not go to jail for doing so. Or people who do it for religious reasons do not go to jail for doing so. No, we are not supporting violence. We are not supporting terrorism. We are not supporting any of that. And last I checked, weed is legal in New York. It is legal. They looked at the arguments that the hippies were making. They looked at their bottom line in terms of how much money it was costing people to come after someone for a little bag of weed. And they decided that the hippies were right. They looked at the clinical studies showing that it does have medicinal purpose, have medicinal qualities that help a lot of people. Okay? And they legalized the shit. So there is nothing being spoken of or supported that is in any way illegal. We're not having a concert where we're selling drugs. That is not occurring. If there are other concerts where that is occurring, they are not under my production team, my name, or my nonprofit's name, and you need to hold them accountable for that. I am not going to answer for what happens at someone else's show. I don't have power over what happens at someone else's show. And while we are there, there may be people who want to come and open up a flag. We didn't invite them. They're not part of our events planning. They're not our speakers. We don't have the authority to kick them out. So if you want to come and kick them out, you can. But unless they're actually engaging in some type of violent crime, we don't have the authority to kick them out just because we're throwing a show that day. I can get up there and dance and sing with a permit, but other people can still come in and out of the park. And if they want to have a demonstration, I can't stop them. And that does not mean that we are affiliated or that we agree with their position. I would like those of you who are frightened and hurt and disappointed by what you saw at Tompkins Square last weekend, I would like you to stop lumping me and my group into those events, because we have nothing to do with what happened at that show. We are not part of the production crew. We are not a completely different group of people. We organize our shows the way we do. They organize their shows the way they do. We are not affiliated, and that has been made abundantly clear in all of the posters. Whose show is whose? Read and stop assuming, okay, that what goes on with one group must automatically go on with the other group. The people who are being biased are all of you. Learn to ask questions. My information is public. My phone number is public. My email address is public. I'm very easily looked up. If you have a concern about my show, you can call me. You will not be lied to. And I have my paperwork that I can show you, and I don't have a problem showing it to you because it is public information anyway. My tax ID number, my registration number with the New York State Attorney General's office, tax filings, who's been on the board, where we get our money from. That is all public info. I have not filed a gift from donors because we have not had donors until this year. So we're a startup. So until we actually get grants and donations, there is nothing to report. Now that did start to happen this year. So at the end of the year, I will be filing that report when it is necessary to file the report. I do not have to file my report until 6 months from now. That is the law. I'm following it. If other people are not following it, you must take that up with that person. I am not that person, and I'm sorry that you were frightened and offended by what you saw. I can understand why you would feel that way. But we are not affiliated with that group, and I would like you to step off of my show and stop associating my nonprofit and my name with something that happened on a completely different show, in a completely different setting, among a completely different group of people. I would like you to please do it now. And if you do have questions, being that we're new and you haven't heard of us, I am happy to answer your questions. You are free to reach out to me. You're free to write me a letter. But there is no scam happening here. We are not illegally soliciting anything. We are not collecting for charity and holding the money for ourselves. We are not failing to register whatever papers we're supposed to register. And we are not affiliated with Hamas. We will not have people on the stage rolling out Hamas flags. If that happens in the park and you're uncomfortable with it, we encourage you to call whoever you need to call about it. But we do not have the authority just because we're running a show that day. We do not have the authority to tell other people that they have to leave the park. The park belongs to everybody, and anyone can come to a free public event. And just because they're there doing that does not mean they are affiliated with us. Okay? And I want to say that anyone who comes to our event on Sunday in any spirit other than peace, if you promote violence, if you try to engage in violence, then you will be removed. Then you will be removed because you are engaging in violence and you are threatening the safety of everyone gathered there. We already have the police, the parks police, our own security detail on alert. So if you think you're going to come to our show and pop shit off, you will be removed. Because in that case, yes, you are causing and inciting violence, and we do not want any part of that. You see the symbol? That's the symbol. Don't bring it here, by all means, but don't bring it. There are families with toddlers in the playground very close to where we are performing. You are endangering innocent people if you come in anything other but peace to our show. Okay? You know, I'm offended when the KKK shows up and passes out literature and calls me all kinds of names. But they have a right to do that. And as long as they are not being violent in any way, there's not a damn thing. You know, I can't tell, nobody can, throw them out of the park for me. And they shouldn't be barred from being able to come together and enjoy music because you're worried that someone else not affiliated with them might show up. So they might show up. What does that have to do with me? You refute them or ignore them. Or if you see them committing a crime, you call it in. Call it in on them, people doing it. Do not call it in on me or my show. We are not involved in any of that. I hope that was made clear. Okay? And with that, I'm going to say that I fully encourage Chris Flash. I fully encourage The Shadow Presents. And I fully encourage the shows at Tompkins to continue to rock against racism. Call racism out every single day, 365 days a year, 24/7. I don't care. I encourage it. By all means. There's no conflict with that. Throw on the same time as mine. I don't care. We can have the reggae people in one park and the hardcore people in the other park. We can have the classical people in another park. We can have the Broadway people in another park, and we can all on the same freaking day rock out against racism. Have every single park in the city at the same exact time having a show that speaks out against racism. Whatever music you're into, you can go there and enjoy it and join them. I don't care. It's a positive message. I support anti-racism, and I also support peace. I hope that was clear. Be blessed.